So why are we doing this? The MCCC is hosted by Xsens and Movella. We give creators the tools to realize their creative dreams. We do this by making sure you do not have to bother about technology. Our mocap suits are super easy to use and they just work in any situation. Can be on the set, can be in the studio, can be outside. And on top of this, we provide production quality data right into your game, into your project, into the metaverse. So for this metaverse, real human motion is super important. You should be able to communicate, just like we do here. Because over half of your communication is done by your body language, like me. And this is exactly where we, Movella, Xsens, can help build the metaverse future. So let's officially kick off the MCCC Metaverse chapter. Our first guests, they are from a project that's close to my heart. I have one of their NFTs. According to their story, the dinosaurs are not extinct at all. They have evolved into JPunks. So what does a JPunk look like? Well, like this.
Whoa.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey Remco, well, I'm kind of hungry.
Oh, well, that makes me a little uncomfortable. But before you eat me, can you introduce the speakers?
Well, of course. So for the first talk of today, I'd like to introduce to you Kevin and James from Jurassic Punks. Take it away.
Here you go.
First of all, Remco, thanks for having us. That was a really cool introduction. Great to see the JPunk in there with you as well. So I'm Kev. I'm one of the co-founders of Jurassic Punks, and JPunks is an NFT series built from the ground up in Unreal Engine. So before James and I go into the actual project itself, we'll give you a bit of background about ourselves and how we ended up in the metaverse, basically. So I started my career in visual effects in 1999, which is about 23 years ago. I moved to London and I started in visual effects studios and worked my way up to becoming a producer. And it was something I always wanted to do. Both my sisters were in the film industry and visual effects was just one of my passions and I really wanted to get into it. So I spent 23 years in visual effects and advertising, moving up from producer to executive producer, and then eventually, before I went full-time metaverse and JPunks in 2020, I was the managing director of one of the largest independent visual effects houses in London. So that for me, that was the pinnacle. That was the top of the game for me. I was really enjoying what I did. We were innovating. We were doing some really high-end commercials. But I got into blockchain and crypto in about 2016, and I got quite heavily involved in the investment side of the ICO days in 2017. And while I was in that space, that became another one of my passions. So it was visual effects and it was cryptocurrency, and blockchain became both my passions. But I noticed that some of the projects that were launching, their marketing videos were quite basic, and I understood why. And I thought if there was any way that I could bring my advertising and visual effects experience into that area, then it would benefit everyone in the space. So I set up a company called Block Films. Now we didn't launch until 2020 because the bear market in cryptocurrency kicked off in 2018. So in 2020, I launched a company called Block Films. And what we did, we made high-end commercials for blockchain companies. And it was fantastic. It really took off. We were making some we still are. We were making some really, really good stuff. And luckily, we own quite a large film studio in London. So what we were able to do is live action commercials with real actors and set it up in a studio base. Now, what the limitations that gave us was in cryptocurrency, a week is like a year. Things move so fast in the blockchain and in the metaverse. So our productions were taking probably close to about 3 months to make the live action commercials. And I think in this space, that's a hell of a long time. So James and I had been working together in the visual effects and advertising, so we knew each other. We'd worked together in that industry before. And I approached James, or we both got in touch. And it was just about the time where James had done the original fellowship in Unreal Engine. And James suggested that we start building these commercials and utilizing Unreal Engine in quite a new way at the time. So we set about building and making these commercials fully in Unreal Engine, and it cut the production time for these commercials down to about 6 to 8 weeks, which is a phenomenal reduction in time, and productivity goes up obviously because we can do more. And what we did, instead of having live actors, we utilized Unreal Engine's metahumans, and we rigged them up to our Xsens suit, and they became the stars of the commercials. So it was really, really exciting. And I guess in hindsight, that was probably where the seed was sown for JPunks. We were already utilizing these avatars, and we were controlling them with motion capture, and that's when James approached me with an idea. He was very heavily involved in the NFT scene by this point, and he approached me with the idea for us to start JPunks. So what I'll do is I'll let James give you a bit of his backstory, and that'll link to how we started JPunks, and obviously started with the motion capture as well.
Cool, cheers Kevin, and thanks Remco. So similar to Kevin, I've been in the VFX, sort of the commercials industry, for about going on 17, 18 years now, but more focused on the artist side. So I started my career at the Mill in London, working on sort of traditional post-production on commercials. I was there for about, I think it's 7 years in the end, sort of from a junior to sort of leading projects. From there, I moved on to a studio called Neon, where I was sort of helping and had a hand in essentially leading all the 3D projects that came into the studio. And what was great about that was it started giving me a bit more influence on the creative, which I started to really enjoy. So I was there another 7 years. So at that point, about 14 years sort of in the industry, I decided to go freelance, and I also did a master's in screenwriting, just trying to bolster that storytelling side. So I did a year of that and was quite fortunate to option a short script to an Oscar-winning director who we've been working together building that. And we were starting to explore the real-time filmmaking as well, and trying to figure out how can we create films that are sort of engaging still and have that emotional attachment, but you can do it quickly. And quite quickly, Unreal and sort of motion capture with Xsens sort of jumped out at us. And it's around that time I saw Unreal sort of advertising for the fellowship. So I applied for that, not thinking I'd get on the first, or maybe there'll be some down the line, but I was very fortunate to get on the first fellowship for that. And that kind of changed my career, and when as soon as I had done that fellowship, I knew I had to stay in Unreal. And one of the key parts of that fellowship as well was we did some motion capture sessions, and they had Xsens suits being directed from one part of the US, someone in a suit in another part, and it all just worked seamlessly. And then when we got to plug it into Unreal, you could really see the speed in which you could create stuff. And it was probably that fellowship for me was what really was the turning point. And as Kevin said, we'd worked together in the traditional industry, and I'd see Kevin creating these block films, and we started talking and sort of suggested we could potentially go this route and do full commercials in Unreal Engine, utilizing Mocap and the MetaHuman. So we started, as Kevin said, we started doing that, and that was my first entrance into crypto. I knew of it, but had never really delved into it much further. But what really immediately stood out to me was the NFTs, and then the metaverse side of that as well, and just sort of seeing how these projects were coming out, building these communities and building this plan for what will become the open metaverse. And it was really interesting on our side. Me and Kevin sort of chatted about it, and we decided to approach it like a project we would do in the VFX industry. And we were seeing a lot of projects coming out with great ideas and hitting the ground, coming out and doing really well, but then having to maybe reverse engineer to build for the metaverse. So we sort of decided we would do it the right way and try and build these in 3D for Unreal, get the motion capture working before we decided to go to Mint. And that's kind of where the whole project was really born.
Yeah, no, and I think the reverse engineering side for us was really important, and I think it was key to kind of our launch, wasn't it? We'd seen quite a lot of projects obviously going to mint and launching and raising money with a static profile picture PFP, and what we thought was the best way to really do that is test how it will be animating in the metaverse before you do that, so that you don't lose any quality at all from your PFP when you go into the metaverse. And I guess James is absolutely right. We treated it like any other visual effects project, and I think that was the right way to go. And we spent, I think it was close on 10, 11 months, James, building. And
Yes.
you know, it was 10, 11 months building. So we had tested out the mocap, which is essential for what we want to do in our roadmap. And we needed to make sure that our models or our avatars would be able to animate the way we want. So I think that was key. And I guess that leads us on to one of the kind of major parts in our roadmap. What we're developing at the moment is a fashion show metaverse. So basically what we're building and what we've got the prototype and we're developing at the moment is a fashion show metaverse where real world and digital brands can come in and host their own fashion shows live in the metaverse. Now, it's something that I don't think has been done to this level in Unreal Engine before, and it's phenomenal. And the key for us using Unreal Engine was the detail that we'll get when we're building a fashion brand's digital clothing will be very close to photoreal, hyperreal I call it, but that was the key for us with Unreal Engine. We think it's such a powerful tool, and James kind of led the way on that, and it's been pivotal to our partnerships in the NFT space. You know, we've been partnering with some really big studios as well who also use Unreal Engine. And I'll hand you over to James. You'll see one of the images here of our virtual runway, and James can kind of explain how that's built, how interactive that is, and go through the process.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I was going to just sort of say briefly as well that the project is actually sort of a 7,777 character project. So they're all unique. They've all been built. I think we had about 300 different traits that were then randomly generated to create the characters. So we've got this huge range of characters that we want to, this motion capture and everything we do will apply to them and bring them into this metaverse. So it's quite a large character pool, and probably similar to a lot of projects out there, they have large collections. And the key thing for us was bringing those into this fashion world, and essentially the unique side we want to do is use them as the models in this world. So one of the early tests we did was bringing in mocap, having a nice sort of catwalk movement, and trying to highlight the clothes. And like Kevin said, Unreal was really important to us because that's where you can get that clarity of clothing. And I think that's going to be the important thing with trying to onboard brands into the space, is being able to show the quality of their clothing or their accessories, the types of materials, the detailing like the logos or the stitching. And I think it's those little details that you can show in Unreal, and then once combined with the smooth motion capture and the realistic movements, it all adds to that experience. And I think it then starts to show people, okay, I can imagine this in the metaverse now, because it looks like what I think it could look like in the real world. And then you can start to take that further, whether it's animated textures on the clothes or something to elevate it beyond the physical world. And that was key. And we wanted to sort of do proof of concepts to show we can do that. And like Kevin said, this catwalk environment here was built in Unreal Engine. We did some mocap that, unfortunately, I was the model in the suit, so it wasn't too well done. What we wanted to show was, like, not only could you view this from any camera, you could rotate around and it would play in real time. We had demos of you could drop another JPunk character in and walk around as if it was a game and view this catwalk from any angle you wanted. And that's the key for us, is trying to make it an experience that you can view like you would do a real fashion show. And that again will blur that line between the physical and digital.
Yeah, and I think that's key for the commerciality of the whole thing as well. I know we know that there are a lot of real world brands that are, you know, they're desperate for exposure in the metaverse. I think they see an opportunity. I think they see, you know, a marketing opportunity as well. But from our research, a lot of the brands struggle with the on-ramp. How do they get into the metaverse? Do they go and see a visual effects company? Do they go and see a metaverse expert? And what JPunks and our fashion metaverse will be is a full 360 solution. So what we do is we will handhold the brands from the moment they come in, take their ideas, we'll build their digital collection in Unreal Engine as well, and then we'll handhold them through the whole process right up to the fashion show. Also do all of the digital collection as well to the moment the show ends and leaves. And I think having that realism and being able to kind of push the boundaries between realism and digital as well, that's the key for us, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and that comes through the look and the movement. And I think one thing we're keen to push is the live version of these shows as well, and getting real models in the suits, walking the catwalk. And I think that straight away, because I think it is from having tried it myself, there is an art form to it, and I think when you get someone in that suit who can do that properly, it again elevates the look of the clothes as well. And I think it's a lot of small pieces that you slowly bring together, and it builds this experience that I think once brands see it and can see the effect it has on people, it will hopefully bring more brands in and make it a more open thing. And I think it's kind of that key thing of it needs to be built together, I think, and it needs to be built the right way. And I think we want to try and utilize Unreal, the motion capture, and get that working.
Yeah, so 100%. I guess that's why Movella and Xsens are so pivotal to what we do. James touched on it. What we'll be doing in the film studio is we'll be hiring real life runway models, and what the motion capture suit does for anyone who's not au fait with, you know, the kind of technical side of it, it will pick up every minute detail of their move. So the specific way that a runway model will walk, and that's key to the realism of what James and I do. And I guess the Xsens suit's pivotal to more or less most of what we have in a runway. One of the other things that we're doing is a mini TV series, and that's full-on animation. And I think, you know, you look out and you can buy a lot of simple mocap off the shelf or specific mocap off the shelf, or you can rig that up to your avatars. But for what we need to do, we need to be bespoke, and we need to be creating those animations. And if we were buying off the shelf, I think we'd be limited in our animation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like you say, because we want to also build out a narrative side, and that's sort of the great thing about Unreal, is that you can build for the sort of the catwalk and the gamified sections of that, but all the elements we build for that can then be reused for the animated series that we want to create as well. And that kind of sort of leads on to the narrative of it all. It just means you can recycle all these moves that we're doing. They all have multiple uses, which is fantastic. And I think that's what it goes hand in hand with Unreal, being able to build something that's not just got a one use and then it's thrown away. It's completely recyclable across all the different strands we want to create in. And like Kevin said, we want to do an animated series as well, which again just adds that extra bit of life to the characters. And again, it will be cast from within the collection, so people will see the NFTs they hold as sort of actors in this show or as models in the catwalk. And I think it starts breathing life into it. And I think that's the thing with the metaverse. It's all well and good as well to have these spaces, but you kind of want these personas in a way to have a life of their own. And I think that comes from sort of some really strong narratives, some really strong experiences where people get to see their characters as the heroes in these sort of events. And I think that will play a really strong role in making this metaverse feel alive as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And interestingly, we've actually, it was, you touched on that as well, that we want to cast our PFPs, our avatars from the community who hold the JPunks. And interestingly, we've got a casting that's coming out live pretty soon. So this will be our first casting, and we'll invite community members with certain PFPs to come up and cast to be the star of our next promo, which is something we always promised. And I'm really excited that it's it's happening. You know, we launched about 7 weeks ago, so it feels like a lifetime ago, if truth be told. It's like 7 weeks in the metaverse is a long time. So, and then I guess the big thing for us is, you know, coming from a visual effects background, and a lot of people say, why did you leave, you know, advertising, and why did you leave the visual effects arena? And I guess one of the big things for James and I was we saw that we could hopefully make a bit of a difference, as because this is such a new space, and you know, we know the tech side inside out. And I think for both of us to be able to be a part of something at the start and be able to maybe put our stamp on a little bit of this metaverse is just, it's such an exciting time for us, and being able to cross those skills that we've kind of honed it for the past 20 odd years each is a big thing for us. And I guess collaboration with other projects, the metaverse would be quite a lonely place if projects were building insular and not sharing knowledge. And that's a big thing for us in the visual effects industry. The process and the tech is more or less all standardized within all the big visual effects. We all use similar kit, we all use file formats. And I guess, James, for me, it would be if the metaverse was built without people collaborating, then there's a chance that they might not be able to link up in the same metaverse. And I guess for us, it's building that network who are also the people who are working in Unreal Engine and pushing it and growing it together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's also just the scale of the job that the industry as a whole is undertaking in creating this metaverse is so vast that to try and do it alone, I think it's probably going to be impossible. You need that collaboration and that sharing of knowledge and sharing of talent to really to make it open. I think if it's not, you, as you say, you're going to have these pockets of communities that have their own little thing, and that might be nice and that might be fine. But I think to really evolve the space and build that truly open metaverse will require communities, projects, talent all coming together to try and build that. And I think if we can and if we do, that's where you're going to start to see some really interesting things in the space. And like Kevin said as well, the utilizing the same software and the same standard. And I think we've chatted before, Remco, as well, what will that format be? And I think Unreal and sort of the Xsens Mocap is quite a universal thing. And you see a lot of students, like obviously you can see on the people talking today, there's a lot of people using that same setup, which means working together or collaborating or sharing of assets becomes a much easier task. And I mean, we saw it with some of the projects we
yeah, funny, I was going to touch on that. One of our partnerships, and we've already formed quite a few partnerships, and they're really strategic partnerships with you know, with kind of Unreal in mind and a similar vision. And one of the projects that we partnership is a project and company called Netvark, or Network, as you might hear it, and they're building out their own metaverse in Unreal Engine. And we spoke to Dan, who's the CEO of Network, very, very early on, and formed a partnership. I think it was before we minted. And one of the things we wanted to test was how easily could we knew that we had built the JPunks in Unreal Engine, and they were rigged and they were metaverse ready. So I guess the big question for us with Dan was, how easily would it be for us to give you one of our JPunks and you utilize it in your metaverse? And it was great to see. So Dan's a really nice guy, and he's really switched on. And we gave him one of our Unreal Engine files with our fully rigged avatar. And within, I think it was like a day or two, he phoned us up, and he had our hero JPunk running about in one of their games, and he said it was seamless. So, you know, I think that kind of highlights when you work together, you know, together everyone's a lot stronger, and you push that space together, and the tech then gets formalized in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other sort of collaborations we did early on with, you can see on the screen now on the bottom right, is one with My Pet Hooligan and Collider. And that was another one, 2 other projects working in Unreal. We had an Unreal scene, we did the mocap for ours, dropped it on, gave them a scene, they dropped theirs on. I believe they're using Xsens as well, if I'm correct. And it all came together really quickly. We were all working in the same format, all using the same setup for motion capture, and it just meant that we could start bringing something together very quickly that especially in the space, you wasn't seeing much of at the time. And it's really interesting building to that universal format. Really helps speed up that process.
100%. No, totally agree. Just checking, Remco, how are we for time? I'm aware I could probably ramble on for Scotland all day. So,
oh, time-wise, you're still fine. So if you still have something to add, then make sure to do so.
excellent. Thank you. Yeah, no. So basically, that's Jurassic Punks. That's what we're doing in terms of our roadmap. We're live on OpenSea, and we're live in the metaverse as well. And I guess our roadmap, year one roadmap, we're still on course for that. We've got some really exciting things coming up. I mean, again, with the roadmap, we meticulously set out to achieve the roadmap based on it being a visual effects project. And I guess what we're quite used to from the years in advertising, it was quite a demanding industry with tight deadlines because you're talking about airspace. So we mapped out our roadmap based on quite a good schedule with our visual effects team. And it was interesting when we entered the space, quite a lot of the community and other people or influencers around us were saying it was quite an ambitious roadmap to do. And I guess that was the beauty of utilizing that experience from our old industry that we grew up in and we know inside out, and having the confidence to say, no, this is what we can achieve. This is what we can achieve in year one. And let's look forward to what we can achieve year 2, year 3, year 4, because for us, this is such an exciting space and it's a full-time job for us. I think it's a full-time career that both James and I are looking, not just year one, but we're looking 3-4 years ahead, where it is now and where's it going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're seeing sort of so many great projects coming out and wanting to work together as well. And I think that's taken us in directions that we maybe hadn't planned in a great way. And I think we're getting contacted by other projects that are wanting to do similar things using Unreal, Mocap. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing of the metaverse, is how many people are going to be willing to work together, because the metaverse with the most people, I think, will be the one that, because it's the one that's going to have the most life, the most character. And I think that's what we're trying to do with JPunks, is try and build that narrative through the visuals and through the motion. And I think that combined will just breathe so much life into this project, and hopefully any other project we work with doing similar things, it'll just create a sort of a living, breathing world. And I think that's what's going to be really important. Otherwise, it is just going to feel like a 3D lobby whilst waiting for what the next room is going to be. And I think that's going to be where it develops from, and that's where we need to sort of develop from, is adding that life to it.
100%. And I agree. I mean, the whole space, or the whole NFT space, is driven and focused around community. So I guess that's another key part why you want to collaborate with other projects on the tech, but also, you know, everyone's got their own community, and you know, we've got a big Discord and it's a great feeling in there. But I think if people were to build a separate metaverse and not mix communities as well, you know, it would be amazing to bump into My Pet Hooligan or a Collider or a JPunk. So it's about inclusivity as well for me. But guys, thanks a lot for listening to us. That's JPunks, and if anyone's got any questions, we're more than happy to answer.
Talk, guys. Thank you very much. I think, I mean, very insightful, and especially, I mean, we're all in exciting times, right, with the metaverse currently. Well, during your talk, I was actually running around looking for Remco, but I can't seem to find him anywhere. So I think one of your guys might have eaten him. So anyway, I mean, we do have a few questions for you guys. So, I mean, let's start with those. So one of the first questions was, I'd like to ask the team if we had ideas and links with a brand, can we bring the idea to the team and work together utilizing their studios?
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, we're at the moment, we've got a team on the fashion side as well, and we've got kind of multiple arms of that. And within our Discord, we've got a suggestions and collaboration section. So if anyone, you know, who maybe, I think there's quite a lot of JPunks in the audience as well. So if anyone does have those intros, exactly like we said, we're open to collaborating and talking through each on a on a project by project basis. So feel free, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, good. So second question is, so the same person would also like to ask the main traits of what the team is looking for when hiring new talent, and if there are any openings currently on the creative side.
That's a really good question, and I think it's always good to get in touch if someone's interested in that side of thing. We talent-wise, it's quite a broad talent. I mean, because we're building in Unreal, but there's also some modeling being done in ZBrush and Maya. There's also the experience aspect in the sort of metaverse and NFT space, which it's really only taken off in the last sort of year to 18 months, this whole metaverse narrative. So anyone that's been in it for that whole time actually has a lot of experience and can probably help in that way as well. So I think it's not just the creative skills in that sense, it's also the creativity of knowing what the space is and where it could go. So I think 100% get in touch. And I mean, one thing we didn't talk on is we did a beta testing where we gave our community a rigged model and sort of gave them some tutorials on how to use it. And the one thing we sort of heard loud and clearly was there was a large appetite to learn, and not only learn the 3D, but learn sort of the motion capture side of it. And it was really exciting to see a lot of people that had never touched any 3D software start creating 3D content. And I think that's the one great thing about the metaverse and NFTs as well. You're seeing a lot of people that might not necessarily have been content creators becoming content creators. And I think that's going to be an amazing thing to develop and nurture as the space grows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me see. So is the pink dino real time with relations to simulation? The JPunk in the intro was indeed live, actually run by me. So I jumped in the Xsens suit and, well, quickly jumped out of it. But that was indeed live. So another question. So I'd like to ask the team, is your brand opening to partnership? Well, I think that was answered already, but also with other immersive tech companies to be interoperable. I mean, that's a key thing, right, these days, interoperability.
100%, yeah. We're looking to partner wherever it's a new metaverse or, as you say, a bit of tech that maybe we could utilize and help sort of develop. We're chatting to as many people that we sort of think can help further us and the space as a whole. So 100%, anyone in that space who wants to chat, feel free to give us a shout.
So I think we've already gotten that answer during the presentation. So I have a question here. Some NFT holders got the Unreal file of their NFT avatar. So did people manage to get them live? Well, I think you've already discussed that during the presentation, right? Where you send over an Unreal file and they pretty much got it live in a matter of.
We did like a beta version, didn't we, Kev?
Yeah, I wonder whether it's worth kind of explaining that. So what we did is we built a beta Rex. That was his name, and we uploaded that into our Discord. And we started off with a select few. We wanted to test it quite small, and then we opened that group up, or that channel in the Discord up, so anyone who holds or anyone in the community can download that beta Rex file, which is phenomenal. You know, so if anyone's listening just now and they're really keen on JPunks and they want to come in and test that link's still live, where you can download your Unreal Engine file of beta Rex and you can have a play. And I guess we would encourage anyone to do it. We were blown away by the amount and the quality of films that some of the community members were coming back with, and we created a showreel that's on our Twitter, and it's mind-blowing what they did in like 2 and 3 weeks. But I guess for the future, we're working on an app at the moment where you will be able to control your own personal JPunk, and I think that might have been the question, and I think probably off the back of that app there'll be the ability to download the file. But it's, that some people just don't have time to kind of learn Unreal Engine. So what we're looking into is an app that's going to be a lot easier for people to animate So
Yeah.
it involves the whole community. You know, you need to have visual effects experience. You can upload that. You can open this app, and you can be your JPunk. So that's in the making, and you know, we'll update soon on that.
Yeah, so it's like
and
making it really accessible.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's for the whole community as well. And if people want to try the, you know, the kind of heavier ended visual effects side, that's great. But if not, we'll have the app where everyone can still have that experience.
Yeah, and it just empowers, again, people that are interested and want to create content. It just gives them an easy way to start having fun with their NFT, with creating stuff for the metaverse, and again adding their own personality to their avatars. And I think it all goes back to that narrative and building your own character within that avatar. And I think we're really keen to push that forward, but still for the people that do want to learn and have a bit more time to learn the 3D side, we want to help nurture that as well.
Exactly. Well, that's good. Definitely a good thing. So let me see. Other than the NFT projects like yours, do you see other use cases for NFTs?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot. I think it's the key one. I think for me is sort of the ticketing and sort of event side of it. Having sort of something you can, especially if it's something that's ongoing, that you can go utilize, swap. And I think I saw one where it was like you buy an NFT to a certain set of tutorials or videos that you can then watch, and then you sell that NFT, and someone else can then experience that. And I think elements like that of like proof of ownership for ticketing events and anything that sort of you can prove your ownership will be key. And I think these sort of projects, the NFT metaverse will still keep coming, and I imagine they're going to get bigger and bigger. But there will be a lot. I think there will be a shrinkage in the industry as people start focusing towards this one goal of this metaverse. And I think you'll see less and less sort of PFP projects that are just static images, and more people trying to build together to sort of fill out this world that's growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, funny question: when will a JPunk pop up in the next Jurassic film?
You never know.
That will be a goal, right? I mean, getting one of those in a Jurassic Park movie, then. I mean,
well, we did
that.
AR filter for Snapchat, and people were filming like films and putting our JPunk head on Jeff Goldblum as he was doing. So
you know, that was really funny that we launched that. Was it last week? We launched an AR filter, and if you go in, this is for anyone who's listening, if you come into the Discord, go into our official links, you can scan on a QR code and you can be one of the JPunks. And I guess the key for that one was, for us, it was just providing a bit of utility, getting the community, you know, to have a bit of fun with it, but to see the amount of creativity and personality coming back. We ran a competition where there were people rapping, singing. A really funny one was one of the community members had a newborn baby all snugged up in one of the cots, and he had him as a JPunk. And you know, I think that got a load of likes. So it's great. See that creativity coming back and empowering people to use it is key for us.
Yeah, and there were some great singers and artists. There was like Lampslit, who did, shout out to him, who did this amazing rap, and then it was Mrs. Nenny who did her song as well. It was just amazing, wasn't it, to see so much talent that I think maybe sometimes people don't want to be the face of it themselves, but having that avatar to sort of portray it gives you that little bit more confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, that lowers the threshold, right? I mean, some people indeed don't want to put their face on the internet, and this helps. And I mean, those filters these days, I mean, they keep getting better and better each day, which is really cool to see. So let me see, what organizations are leading the way in privacy and content decency regulations in XR?
Well, it's a tough one, that one, isn't it? It's a real tough one. If I'm honest, I'm not sure on that one.
No, it's same for me. I don't think there. I mean, it should.
I don't think there
get
is.
there someday.
I think are trying to regulate it, but it's such it's such a fast moving thing. I think it's hard to regulate, and I'm sure as it starts to become this sort of more targeted industry, it might get a bit easier to regulate. But I also think that's part of the appeal to a lot of people, is the decentralized and unregulated aspect of it. But it's a fine line between giving, sort of having the freedom to do anything, to actually doing things that potentially are not the things that you want them to do. It's a very fine line to walk, I think. But I think we might start to see more regulation coming in as it becomes a more
Really good question, whoever that was. You stumped us both.
Yeah, stumped us on that one.
Well, sometimes you need challenging questions, right?
True.
So next one. So which blockchain are your NFTs on currently?
So they're on Ethereum at the moment.
Ethereum.
Yeah.
Good. Is there any way that people can reach out to you guys directly through either an email or?
Yeah, 100%. So they can contact us on marketing@meta-labs.io. So if this has been recorded, or they can DM the Twitter team on our official Twitter. And to be honest, the whole team are quite active on Discord. So you can just catch us in the Discord. We're on, apart from working away, when we've got a bit of time, we're in our Discord and we're always open for questioning. So there's multiple routes that people could get a direct line in to James, I, and the team.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think we do AMAs quite regularly as well. So they're always welcome to come in and listen on those. And we always have a large section at the end to do Q&As like this if they have a specific question they want to bring up.
Good. So I see another question, which I think I could probably answer the best. So one of the questions was, what's the learning curve for someone that has never used the Movella suite, or in principle the Xsens suite? I use 3D software, but not for animation. So usually when we, for example, send out a demo system or a new client purchases one of our systems, they are pretty much up and running within a day. I always say our systems are incredibly easy to set up and use. I would say even my grandma could do it, but there are a few things to keep in mind when setting up a system like that, and that's where we've created tutorial.xsens.com, which is a tutorial webpage with all videos on how to properly set up one of our systems. So I mean, we always advertise it as an easy-to-use system, which it is. So normally you would be, with some experience, 10-15 minutes, you should be in the suite, and you have something set up in Unreal, for example. It is fairly plug and play in that sense. So definitely, I mean, reach out to us if you want some more information, or you ever want to dive into a call to, kind of get a feel of what our system can do for you. Then feel free to either contact Ole or Alan, or send an email to sales@xsens.com or sales@movella.com. So be sure to do that.
Yeah, and I agree. It's kind of, once you've gone through the process once, it's kind of, you've got it then. It's once it's set up and you've gone through it, as you say,
absolutely.
put it on and it works. It's really good for that.
Exactly. Let me see. So also I have to learn, I think, the Unreal Engine for environments. I'm trying to figure out how to get proper training. Do you offer private tutoring? Well, we as Movella don't. You guys, do you provide tutoring, or?
We don't. We did have, when we did our beta program, we were sort of helping people and trying to point them in the right direction. I think for me, I think Unreal themselves have really great learning portal.
Absolutely.
And they do a really good thing where they supply the files you need to learn. Plus, they also structure it in a way where it's not 1 4-hour video you have to watch. It's broken down into smaller steps, so you can chip away at it. You don't have to have a really large block of time to learn. You can just sort of do a few sections each day if you want. And that would be my first port of call. Would say check out their education portal. Try their very first beginner ones. I think they've got one which is your first hour in Unreal, and that will give you a really good base to start from.
Absolutely.
And again, one of the key things there is take it in small steps. You know, it can be daunting if you try and push too much or try and learn too much too quickly. Small steps are big gains, you know, and that's, I guess James will tell you, that's how you learn the quickest, is just take baby steps and just achieve small goals, and then eventually that will build up over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just diving into it. I mean, get your hands dirty, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to learn. I mean, I've pretty much learned everything by just doing it. I mean, these days with YouTube and also the Unreal learning community, I mean, there are so many communities these days. It shouldn't be too difficult to dive into something. And
I guess that's kind of similar to the visual effects industry. You know, it's quite, the VFX industry is quite famous for, when you come in, you come in at ground level, you know. And I remember when I started in my very first post house in '99, my job was a runner. That was the entry point, where I had to make tea and coffee and toast for all the clients in the suites. And I went down the managerial route, and James obviously went down the tech and the creative route. But it was common for me to book out runners to go and use the kit at night, you know, and they would learn off of other people, and they would learn just little steps and test it, getting the hands dirty after they had done a shift in work. And I think 90% of the serious visual effects artists that are in the world today started out on that same route of just having to jump in and get going, you know.
Yeah. And I think you can really get in and break it as well, because it's one of the few things you can literally just undo, and you've not lost anything. So I think it's one of those few industries you can really just play around with it, break it, and that's where you learn as well, by all those things you do wrong, really teach you where not to go and what ways to approach projects. So
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So I got another question. So can you give us the invite link to the Discord community? I think it will be good. I mean, we're sending an email to all the contendants as well. Might it be good to send that with that email as well?
Absolutely, we can send that. And I guess that one thing, just, you know, obviously we're quite security conscious at JPunks, and I'm sure all our community know that. And a big thing that I would like to say is, obviously, use official links only to come into our Discord. Our Discord's actually on our official, the link is also on our official Twitter. And just to be aware, we've got an official link section, and I wouldn't sway away from that. I would always go through our official links.
Now, yeah, also, I want to open my own marketplace for NFTs. Could you direct me to someone experienced with this? I mean, I would guess that would be you guys, right?
I mean, the marketplace, building your own marketplace is quite a big project. So I mean, I think there are some out there. We'd have to have a think. It's one of those ones. Maybe get in touch with us and we can maybe point you in a few. But it's a big dev job, building that marketplace so it facilitates all the sales and that side of it. But by all means, give us a shout on whether through the email or on Twitter, and we can point you in the right direction.
So yeah. So last question. So is pixel streaming part of your NFT pipeline?
We are looking into it, especially when we start doing the fashion shows. That will be one route we'll look at, just to get that clarity and speed working for everyone who's watching it. And I think we're looking at that route, and then also trying to look at an optimized, almost like a game environment route that would be almost like an application that would be working that way. So we are definitely looking into pixel streaming, because it seems the most efficient way of ensuring the quality that people are seeing.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think that's it for now. I would like to thank you guys a lot for this talk. I think a lot of good questions as well. So thanks for the audience to participating with the first talk of our MCCC this year. So yeah, our next talk will be in 15 minutes. So we're gonna take a short break. Hope to see you all guys back in 15 minutes. And James and Kevin, thanks again for the talk, and we will talk to each other soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us on, and speak soon.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, guys.
Cheers.